What's going on, people? In this episode, we're going to be talking about the 5 plugins I can't live without. I'm Jorge Lanzas, and now we'll break it down, baby. Alright, thank you so much for being here once again, and remember, as usual, like, subscribe, and do all those cool little things that we like to do on YouTube so that you and I can stay in touch with each other. Anyway, let's just get right to it. The 5 plugins I can't live without. Okay, so plugin number 1. It's gonna be the SPL Iron by the great folks at Plugin Alliance. And this plugin is basically gonna be, imagine like it's my console and my template. And I have different buses that I'm gonna like route, let's say, all my vocals to, or all my drums, or my basses, or whatever is guitars, all that's, you know what I'm talking about, all my buses. So each one of those is gonna probably have one of these guys. And in most of these buses, I'm just basically gonna be using it like as a tone control. Like I said, like it's my console, and that is in the console, so that's the compressor that I have. Most likely I'm not gonna compress, and I'm gonna use it for like a tone control. And I'm gonna determine, for example, how much bass extension things have, or how much top end they have. And I'm gonna be doing that with this air bass control. Let's hear on this drums really quick. I'm gonna start with it on, and then I'm gonna take it off so that you can hear what's missing. Let me put my headphones on. So basically what's happening is like below 80 hertz, there's a little bit of a bump. And then like on top of like maybe 5 or 6K, there's another bit of a bump. I don't know if it's a shelf or whatever. That's what I hear. That's what I see in my meters. That's what I think I'm hearing. So that's what's happening. And I like that because in certain things, for example, in drums, I'm going to use it because I know I have the hi-hats, and I have like kicks are usually going to have a lot of bottom end. So I might use that in that case. And let's say, for example, if I'm doing like guitars and it's like a rock song, in that bus, I might not use it. So then it's not going to have that little extra bump, making it a little bit easier to fit in the mix. Anyway, stuff like that. And then on top of that, I can control a little bit of what's happening on the width with this control right here. Most likely, I'm going to keep it very, very minimal when I'm using this plugin. And the other thing that I like a lot is like the tube bias. It's going to change a lot of tones, but everything is like very minuscule. And I'm talking for people that are going to be doing mixes and that kind of stuff. This plugin and the way that I'm using it, it's not really a super creative way. It's like when you're like really, really counting nicks and dimes, like they say, like where every single 10th of a dB really counts, because that's what it's going to allow you to have the edge of like having your song a little bit more punch or whatever. Every single cent counts. Anyway, so this is great. I love this plugin, and let's just quickly move on to plugin number 2. And that's going to go to the great people at SIR Audio Tools, and the plugin is called Standard Clip. And as it says it on the tin, it's just a clip. I'm gonna have 2 uses for this clipper. The first one, it's gonna be like a super transparent, and that's gonna be like, for example, in this case, in an example that I'm gonna show you right now, it's in my instrument bus, which is like everything that is instrumental, it's gonna go to that bus, right? And so, of course, I'm going to have my oversampling all the way to 32 times, because that's how I avoid like aliasing and a bunch of other artifacts that happen with a little bit of distortion that I might be getting with this plugin every time it hits. So in this case, let me just show you. So as you can tell, it's doing like very minimal work, kind of. But it's a transparent way to do it, is what I'm saying. And I have another usage for it that it's a little bit more aggressive. In this case, for example, with this kick. It's like extremely, extremely aggressive. And in this particular kick is because I really was trying to get a lot of it, like I was trying to create that kick from the kick that I had. And of course, it's going to be aggressive. But the point is, this plugin allows you to be that aggressive while trying to be creative. And so what I use it for is like, it's basically my safety blanket. Every time I'm trying to do some like really, really extreme tone shaping, that's where I'm going to put it in, so that I know that in this case, for example, let's see, if I take it off, basically my meters stay the same, but there's a huge change. And that's exactly why I want this clipper, because I want to keep that meter the same, but I want to hear the tone change and the impact change that I was looking for without gaining all that level, which is going to trigger all my compressors down the line. Anyway, so that's a great, clever little use for it. And it's really creative because I'm really being aggressive. I'm really, really distorting with it. Okay, plugin number 3. It's going to be the CLA Epic by Waves. And this one might be controversial because I know there's like split ways. Like there's a lot of people that love to hate on the CLA plugins, but let's face it, CLA is a freaking legend. Like he's done thousands of records that are amazing. And you know, like he was a guy of his era, a killer. And most of the tools that he makes them simple for us to be using them every day. And that's exactly how this one snuck into my sessions. It made it into my template really quickly because it's just like an all-purpose send in my case. And I just put it in my template, and every time I'm recording vocals or even like guitars and stuff like that, I just load that guy in and it sounds great. Let's just hear an example. I'm gonna start with the plugin on, and then I'm gonna turn it off. A little bit exaggerated just so that we can hear it. It's just like instantly sounds amazing. Every time I hear this plugin, it just makes me smile. Let's hear it again. I'm gonna exaggerate it a little bit more. So with it. So as you can see, it's like an instant way to just make something sound great and have like a space and just overall feel nice. I really enjoyed that plugin. This is my good friend and collaborator extraordinaire, Jake Singh. Channel link right here. Go check his music out. Plugin number 4. Okay, I really have to talk about this plugin. It's not one that I use a lot, but it has one usage and one usage only. It started as like me just trying to get a little bit more top end and exploring the plugin and just trying to figure out what I wanted. And then I realized that what it actually does in my usage is that it levels certain things in a way that it makes it feel more even, for me at least. Let's just see what plugin is. We have Audiophonic by Kosh Audio. It's like it says right there, it's a parallel equalizer, and it has a little bit of faciness and a little bit of distortion, but it's stuff that I really embrace because in my opinion it just sounds so musical. And the way that I like to mix, it's like I want to have a picture in my speakers of what I'm hearing. And so what happens when I use this plugin is that I literally just get a little bit of like a bump in my mix. So I tend to use it in my tubas right before my limiters, and sometimes I use it in my vocals. But as you can see right here, I have every single knob on 0, basically. That is just because this plugin is like very deceiving, and you're just gonna want a little bit more and a little bit more, and you're gonna realize all of a sudden your mix is destroyed. So you have to be very careful. Just put it on. Let me just show you, just by like literally doing nothing, just having the plugin on, and of course like moving these little things. Let's hear the difference. I'm gonna start with the plugin on, and then I'm gonna turn it off. You see how it gets sad. You can really hear it in like the hi-hats and like the crunchy part of that bass. And it's just like I said, it's like a very subtle thing, but I feel like it just brings everything forward in a very, very, very musical, in a very, very, very pleasant way. All right, so that was Audiophonic by Kosh Audio. And last but not least, number 5, it's gonna be Filters Saturn. I love that plugin. It might be probably my most favorite plugin, or at least my favorite like dynamic control plugin. S tier, 100%. It lives on every session. I use it when I'm producing. I use it when I'm like sound designing. I use it when I'm mixing. I use it if I'm mastering sometimes, not really. But I might sometimes, I don't know, maybe. The thing is that it's such a versatile plugin. Like, but the way I see it and the usage I give it, because I'm pretty sure it's got like a ton of more usages, but the one I give it, it's basically like a super nice compressor that goes from very, very, very little to very, 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 very much. And like super distorting, and like, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, for example, like back in the day, you would have gone to like a particular compressor because when you use that one, the distortion would have been like over the top and like the mid range. Or you would use the other one because the lower mids would distort a little bit better. Or sort of like what Rupert Neve does with the blue and red texture. If you know anything about that, that might be a little bit of an obscure reference. But if you know what I'm talking about, let me know in the comment section. That would be super interesting to read. Anyway, so the way I use it again, almost like a compressor that has a super wide range because it has this dynamics control and it's in a multi-band context, so even better, right? Multi-band control for dynamics. And like, let's say if you go up here, it's going to reduce the dynamic range. And if you go down, it's going to almost expand the dynamic range. So effectively, you can isolate certain sounds, like taking a little bit of release off or release on. And it just sounds so good. One of my favorite use cases is to give drums that little top end that every single drum usually needs. And let's say if it's in the case of like an acoustic drum, it's going to be like that, for example, that you hear in the beater of the kick drum when you are playing it. But then when you record it, you don't hear it. You hear like pa, 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 or like a plasticky tone. As soon as you smear that top end, it just comes to life. And let me show you this example because this might be the most shocking in the whole night. It's with that kick drum that I showed you earlier. Let me show you what I started with before using Saturn. Okay. So now with Saturn, like I say, all that top end, it's like, you almost hear like a little bit of air around the kick. And let me tell you, this is not a live kick at all. And I know, I mean, it fooled nobody, right? But all I mean to say is like, it adds that top end, that definition that you need. Listen to. Let me take it away in the context of this mix. You see how much you miss it. You know what I'm trying to say? It almost brings in this particular example, I was trying to bring that kick drum from like normal hip hop, great bottom, nice punch and everything to like modern. And that's what it did for me. And I hope that that's what it does for you. Let's just go to here a few conclusions just because it's fun to do so. All right, so there you have it. Those are my 5 favorite plugins at this moment. And you know, this might be an ongoing thing that I do like a part 2, part 3, whatever, because it's all about sharing what I'm using at the moment. And a lot of people that I know are using these kind of tools too in like similar ways, but I'm always going to share my way of doing things and the reason why I find things useful, because I think that's my contribution to our community, right? If not, you would go to see somebody else. And maybe even I do a video recommending you good people that I find very useful and that I learn a lot from. Anyway, back to the plugins. Those 5 plugins, I feel like they have very, very specific usages. And the fact that I can use it in so many different ways, in so many different levels, it's just a testimony of how great plugins are getting nowadays. And again, if you saw my video about how to use your amplitude right here, which is basically using your imagination and stop thinking that you're using a computer and stop complaining like, oh, I don't have a console. You have it. It's in your head. It's in your computer. Recreated. Exactly like they would have done it in the past. Just do a little bit of research. Try to figure out, okay, how can I use distortion to create the sound that I want? How can I use different plugins to create the sound that I want? Just so that it's easier for you to get exactly to where you want to get in your creative musical endeavors. Anyway, Remember, as usual, like if you like this video, definitely subscribe, stay warm, stay safe, go to the comment section down below and let me know what you think. Other than that, I'm out, my friend.